Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. A special thank you to those of you who've stuck around for the past hour and a half already. So thank you so much for your commitment and dedication to this panel. I'm just trying to see if there's other folks I should be waiting for to come off camera, but we will get to that piece. So this is officially our panel session for our holistic student support panel. And I want to just really give a shout out to the folks who are off on video right now who participated in individual presentations contributing to this work. I really appreciate everything that folks have contributed, and we'll ask some questions and have a great conversation around this concept of holistic student support. So many of you were able to watch some of the live presentations and pre-recorded presentations up until today. But for those of you who haven't been able to do so, I was hoping that each of our presenters could give like a 1 to 2 minute overview of the great stuff that you talked about in your individual presentations, just to help orient us all to the same place to really connect and kick off our conversation. So we will start with our pre-recorded presentation. Millie, I turn to you.
Okay, thanks. So Kira and Jody Hamirda and I did a poster presentation, and so I'll just go over that just really quickly in case you missed that one. But our learning theory that we used was Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, as well as scaffolding, and that is through the interactions with instructors, librarians, writing tutors, or subject tutors. The student will progress and increase their learning, and then also through scaffolding resources and scaffolding the collection of supports that we have available. Really just with the understanding that we're hoping that students will get the right support at the right time. So we do have a collection of supports, and a student may need a different support at a different time, depending on what their needs are. Another thing that we went over is the role of tutors and what tutors can provide to students, but also some of the things that tutors are not able to provide to students. We also went over how to prepare for a tutoring session, if that's the right support for that student, and how faculty can facilitate in helping a student to prepare for a tutoring session. And then finally, we went over some of the aspects of using academic integrity while using tutoring. So using the tutoring to get a better understanding of the material, and then moving and working independently on your own. And just what I'm going to do in the chat is I'm just going to include a link to our poster. That way, if anyone didn't see it, they can view that poster now. There's also some faculty and some student resources around this topic that's on that poster that may be useful for you. So I'll include that in the chat.
Thank you, Millie, for that introduction. For those of you who just joined, we're just giving a super brief high-level overview of the presentations leading up to this panel. So Evan, you have 1 minute to highlight champs.
I'll lead half that. Thank you, Rachel. So I spoke about the CHAMPS Peer Mentoring Program and really the holistic needs of our students. And our students come to us with a variety of life experiences, school experiences, and so with that, a need for a variety of services. So I covered some of the various services that's offered through student affairs, but also talked about how in CHAMPS, we try to be intentional with how we match our students with a peer mentor, so they have some commonality in the beginning to build rapport with, and have maybe faced similar challenges in the past or they're present with school here. But ultimately, for students to be successful as times change, as jobs change, health, circumstance, all those things change over time, the role of a mentor can be really valuable as we're able to help point them in the right direction of whatever service that might be through UAGC.
Thank you. And Christina?
Yes, so I talked about student conduct. We talked about the mission values, what the standards look like, integrity, community, fairness, respect, and responsibility. Shared some data on the violations year to date, talked about kind of newer steps in the process and enhancements we've made, such as the conduct appointment and reentry appointment. And then just shared actual student feedback, and then shared some re-entry data. So, probably my most proud data point is of students who have completed the conduct process who were referred to conduct this year. 73% are in an active complete grad or pending grad status.
And finally, Vanessa.
Yes, hi. So my presentation, before I got rudely interrupted by the internet, was on student and alumni engagement outside of the classroom. I discussed the importance of student and alumni engagement and how UAGC Connect creates the environment for engagement for the university. It's our virtual student union with the same benefits as an on-campus student union, where students and alumni can expand their network, attend events, join a club or organization, access professional resources, receive exclusive benefits and discounts, visit the job board, apply for jobs, engage in conversation and discussion posts, and this is all in one platform. I gave a tour of UAGC Connect and its features, explained how it benefits everyone from students to faculty, staff, and alumni. And studies show when students display high levels of engagement, they're more likely to excel academically, form a stronger sense of connection with their school, and have a more positive sense of social, emotional well-being. And UAGC Connect is this place that brings students and alumni together to connect, collaborate, and learn outside of the classroom.
Thank you all so much for those little tidbits into your broader presentations. Just as an orientation for this conversation today, I wanted to give a little bit about the reasoning why I wanted to create a panel on holistic student support, right? So when I think about an institution and how each unit that we represent serves a different need or needs of our student, the way a student engages at the institution, though, isn't so distinct, right? So if I'm a student entering this institution and I have a peer mentor and I access accommodations and I'm part of a club and I never find myself in student conduct, I experience that as my university experience, right? Those of us working on the institution side, we may see those pieces as distinct, but I think it's imperative that we can view it from a holistic perspective so that we can meet a student where they are in their academic journey and see it as a whole, right? And not pieces of a puzzle. In my role as the VP of Student Affairs, I'm consistently and continually thinking about that frame, right? Like, how do we bridge what we're doing? How do we support the whole student? And so that's the conversation I'm hoping to guide today. So Millie and Kira, and Millie, you gave us a little intro, thank you. You so eloquently talked about the resources available to students in the classroom. And I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about what those of us across the institution, faculty or staff, can do to help support that work in the classroom, right? How can we help holistically support our students and ensure that they're representing and accessing the resources that you all spoke about in your presentation?
Right. So faculty and staff can best support students by suggesting the support that is most appropriate for each individual student. And for example, tutoring is not a one-size-fits-all support. So it cannot be the single support that is that students are utilizing, or that faculty and staff push students towards. So, a student may understand the course material just fine, but their need may actually be that they need a little more time to complete an assignment. Similarly, a student may not need live writing tutoring, but they may need a resource that shows an example of how to add their own academic voice to a paragraph, for example. So really about assessing what the student's individual need is, and then pushing them to that support that is appropriate for their situation. Kira, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I was actually just about to tap into that same vein. So yes, thank you, Millie. So one of the things that we find is that it can be really overwhelming. The amount of supports that we do have available to students can be really overwhelming. And sometimes faculty don't know the best support to lead a student to, or they don't really understand what's involved with the tutoring or how to access it, or not even just tutoring, just resources in general. And so we did create, and some of this is in that poster, but we did create a guide that for the academic supports for faculty, and that link did not work. Let me hold on a second. So this is the link for it. Hopefully it'll let me put it in chat here. Yeah, okay, perfect. So that's a link to our UADC learning supports, for example, and that's basically like a one-stop shop that's supposed to help faculty and students to understand, and support staff too, to be able to understand all of the resources that are available and guide students to the appropriate support. And we also have in the poster, so definitely recommend checking out the poster, have some additional supports like a signals guide for faculty, and some outreach around tutoring supports and how to recommend supports to students. So that's what I would recommend first and foremost, is that faculty become more knowledgeable about what's available so they can holistically support the student and meet them where they are and provide guidance on whatever support is most appropriate.
Thank you so much, you too. And thank you, Stacy, for putting questions in the chat. I have some questions to kick us off, but I would love to engage with questions from the audience. So please keep those coming. It looks like Stacy got a question answered, but please do post questions in the chat and we will get to them. While I was listening to your presentation, Christina, it came to my mind that you shared a story, and I know a lot of stories of folks who engage with conduct, that the better able we are to holistically support our students, the less likely they may be to engage with conduct. And we've heard stories of folks who felt like because they weren't getting support is the reason that they cheated on assignment. And I'm wondering if you can just speak about how your process has become more holistic, or how you are better able to support our students in that way, and what you would ask of the rest of us really to engage in that holistic support to prevent future conduct violations.
It's a great question. So, I think, like I talked about, really the Zoom conversation, the face-to-face conversation, which would typically happen at a traditional university. A student will walk into the conduct office and sit down with their conduct officer and talk about what happened. And so we do that virtually with our students. We get to know them. There have been conduct appointments where I'm trying not to cry because I'm just so impacted by their story. And it takes listening, and it takes understanding and leading with empathy and support. I scream this from the top of my lungs in every meeting, but you'll hear it again if you've already heard it. Our students are not us traditionally when many of us went to college. They're us now. They have families. They're dealing with aging. They're dealing with death. They're dealing with children. We're also still in a pandemic, right? So they are us as a working adults, really. And so we need to take that into consideration when working with our students. And I think our conduct process and the changes we've made to it really reflect that. We get to know them a little bit better. I love to share this data and report out on it. Last year, we created our first ever annual report to share this with senior leadership, our conduct story and what we do and how we impact students. And so I think all of us, I would say, like, I probably used to be really a bit of a, stickler. And I've really changed too since becoming a mother and a working mother and whatnot. And I think sometimes just putting ourselves in our students' shoes, especially for who they are, shameless plug for my next UAGC TLC presentation tomorrow on who the UAGC student is, but just really acknowledging that and owning it and taking it into consideration when we're working with students, because they are going through a lot, and if we refuse to see that or don't see that and don't take that into consideration, we lose the ability to holistically support them to achieve their goals. For everything that's going on in this world, I got to tell you, this might be the one thing that student has somewhat of control over in their life, of being in the classroom, of sharing their ideas. It's their own time, their own product, their own valuable work. And this might be just the one thing in their life that they have control of right now. And so when they're asking for help, we have to help them. I hate to share this example, but I had a group of ER nurses last year, like ER nurses in the time of COVID, at the highest time of the pandemic. asking for extensions on their work and being told no. And it really hurts my heart to sit in a conduct appointment and hear that. And I don't want to hear that anymore. So I just think it's really important that we take into consideration who our students are and how we can support them, because a student who graduates from this institution will impact the world.
Thank you, Christina. So those of you who don't know, CHAMPS is actually an acronym, and the H happens to stand for holistic. And Evan spearheaded this effort to get CHAMPS off the ground. And so my question for you, Evan, is that why the H? Why was that so important to you, and how are you embodying that today in CHAMPS in 2021?
Sure. I really love to share the story that in, I think, in 2012, when I was a student advisor at the time, working along with students. At that time, I didn't have kids. It was just myself, and then, going through having a fiance, getting married, and trying to support students. I didn't understand their troubles. I didn't understand why they would call me and say, I'm struggling, or I have to get this paper done, but I'm here with my kids tonight. I don't know how I'm going to get them in bed, get my paper done, and do all that. I'm not sure that I can do this. Like I can hear how tired they are. And I actually started to connect students within my own cohort and said, listen, I don't have kids. I don't understand those challenges. My life is not that busy. But I have some other folks that I think may know that have some tips and tricks. And so I actually started to connect those students. And I quickly realized the students who would call me looking for help, looking for resources, support, pep talk, whatever, or looking to quit, really it had nothing to do with their academic ability. It was not because they were not smart enough. It was not because they didn't have a motivation to have a better job, to make more money, to be more impactful on their family and community. And it had everything to do with life around them. And so that was the driving force of this nature of being holistically supported. Is there are times when students need help with tutoring. There are times they need a pep talk. There's sometimes they need to be sat down and told, you're just going to have to do your paper, and you have to do it the right way. And this is the way to do it. One of the quotes I shared in our presentation earlier was from one of our mentee completers that said, sometimes we don't know exactly what we need. I hadn't needed the tutoring until we had discussed the different ways of getting help through UAGC. So when I did need it, I knew exactly where to go. The CHAMPS mentors, the chats, all of it provides such an awesome support system that it is critical. So I think it's very important for all of us to know and understand that, as Christina mentioned, and we are all very aware, but it really takes intentional discussions and good relationships to be able to point students in the right direction, that the needs of our students are different when they come to school. That need may change the next month, that need may change in the following year. And it's important for us to maintain good quality relationships from beginning to end, because the only way students can fail is by quitting. And we have way too many good people, resources, and things we can do to support students to avoid them from quitting on themselves and putting them back in that same situation they were before they came to us.
Really well said. Thank you. So Vanessa, as you were closing out your presentation, you were showing us our amazing platform of UAGC Connect and how students and alumni can engage. Can you say anything about future plans, even short-term future plans, and how you feel like those might support a holistic approach on our end?
Yeah, of course. So we do have a couple of interesting plans coming up. One of the plans that we have in motion is transitioning our current CHAMPS peer mentoring program over to UAGC Connect. Our vendor has a great program that will add to another resource into UAGC Connect, and it will create more engagement with others in the UAGC community in one space. And we also are in talks with some of our faculty. They have approached us and they want to add an assignment to one of the general education courses for students to visit and analyze the benefits of UAGC Connect. And this approach actually helps, to drive students to the platform earlier in their development as a student, and it helps to facilitate earlier engagement outside of the classroom. So our wish and hope is for other faculty to find similar ways to connect students to the platform, by visiting clubs or orgs, professional development events, peer mentoring, etc. We have a couple of faculty who post classroom announcements to come and join, to check out UAGC Connect. And, the more involved you are, the higher chances of retention and succeeding. So we're really excited.
It's such a great point. Vanessa, you asked us in your presentation to think about what the student union was like for those of us who attended an in-person college, right? And you couldn't really go anywhere without passing the student union, right? It was always on your mind. It was always in your way. And so how do we cultivate an experience where students can easily see that that thing exists for us, right? But you're not just going to accidentally walk by it. We have to be very purposeful about putting it in places where students can see it and will see it. And of course, the classroom is an amazing place for that to happen, because that's where our students are engaging. So such a great idea to really provide that wraparound support to our students. Can I ask participants themselves, folks who participated in the panel, or those of you who are watching today, are there questions you want to ask each other, things that we're missing to really engage in this conversation, or questions in the chat? You are able to come off mute, even folks who are not panelists, so feel free to jump in there. I'll start with our presenters. Is there anything you want to add to this conversation, having heard each other now all spoken?
I'd like to add something to what I didn't get to say earlier, is that our platform, UAGC Connect, the vendor, they're always adapting to our needs. They're constantly adding new features and updates. Every quarterly webinar, we're allowed to see their ideas and what their, the wheels are turning for different things. And this year alone, they've created a mobile app. So there's now on-the-go engagement with UAGC Connect. They've introduced video introductions where you can, post a video and ask simple questions just to help connect with others on a personal level. And they've redesigned the homepage for seamless scroll to make it easier to kind of see everything all at once. So they're always looking for new ways to make sure the students, and alumni are engaged with each other.
I just love that you're raising your little yellow hand right now.
I was just going to note that I think, it makes it important. And even in the quote that I read earlier, there were two main things. One, the student was appreciative of CHAMPS, but they were more appreciative of tutoring and what they received from that. And because of that connection, the student felt supported, and felt successful. And I think all of us have the same goal of, we want to work with as many students as possible. We want our services to be in front of students. We want them to take advantage of it. And in that, given some of the training we learned, of the power of one, that really resonates for me. And that, when that progress report comes in and that student leaves that comment for us, we should be sharing that with that group, with the tutoring group, because we were able to do what we set out to do. And for every one student we do that for, then perhaps we have the opportunity for the next one and the next one. We all have a goal of being a program or a service that is far reaching. And that's always our goal. And we do that one student at a time. And I think we should also celebrate one student at a time and share that communication, because that can go a long way for the people that are working with students every single day, across all of our different services. And so I think we can make a good effort in making sure we're celebrating those successes and sharing that type of communication, because that's our ultimate goal, collectively with support here.
That's such a great point, Evan. And I think, what we know working with students is that all it takes is one connection, right? One meaningful connection with a student to somebody associated with the university that can make the difference, right? And when I think about that and I couple that with the holistic piece, right? So if my one connection happens to be my access and wellness counselor, sure, I'm getting my accommodation support, right? I'm getting my advocacy in the classroom. I'm getting that connection. But if my access and wellness counselor can also help me see the connection to CHAMPS, help me get involved with a club, help me engage in the classroom, right? All those other pieces of the puzzle, if each little piece is able to have that holistic lens, we are far more likely to help our students succeed, connect, graduate, and just feel that deeper connection to us, right? So each one of us has a responsibility as an individual to take that holistic perspective and to connect with our friends, right? So it isn't always just making that referral. I think that's the lowest level of holistic support, and I endorse it. Please make the referral. But how do we connect them to a human, right? Not just connecting them to a back end support. Evan shared in his presentation a student saying, I felt like I went to a computer school until I had a mentor, right? Like sometimes our students don't feel like we're real human beings, and we are. And the better we can engage in that human way of, hey, can I connect you with my friend Evan in Champs? Let me get you connected over there. Talking with them later. How was it? How was your first meeting with your mentor? Tell me about the club, right? That's that piece that we can add to what we're doing. It doesn't take more training. It doesn't really take more time. It's that extra level of engagement with our students and keeping connected with each other. Millie, I think I interrupted you.
Oh, no, not at all. But I did want to make a comment or ask a question. And this is really more towards not the panelists, but to faculty, support staff that are on the call right now. You know, we talk about, you know, there are all of these different teams and these different resources. And Evan, one thing that you talked about in your presentation was how, you know, every student is different. You know, you even went into, you know, some are introverts and some are extroverts, but, you know, all of our students, they need something different, and that may even change from course to course. So I would be interested, or I think it would be an interesting piece of discussion to hear from faculty or staff about how do they engage with students in order to find out what the students need, whether it's, you know, do they need more time? Where to send the student to? So like, what are some strategies that faculty and staff might use in order to just bring out from the student what it is that they need at this particular time? If anybody would like to share.
Do we have any brave folks willing to talk about their experiences?
I can share. Hi, everyone. It's Javier. I'm an Access Wellness counselor. I think Melly brings up a good point, and something that I've been playing with in my mind is how to support those students in crisis. So we have pretty big populations, but one of the things I've been doing on my own now is kind of reaching out to students just on a random day, random student, just to check in with them and see how they're doing. And surprisingly, a lot of students are, you know, going through a lot of things, and they need support, don't even know that they needed the support, don't know that they could take breaks, you know, extra time, just feeling that I'm touched, you know, reaching out to them and kind of talking through the issue, whatever's going on with them, has helped them just figure out, well, this is what I needed to do. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could do this other things. So just feeling supported and knowing that they can have that support from me. But my thing is just making sure that I can reach out to them all with the limited time that I have, but just kind of trying to reach out to them on a random day just to see how they're doing. And with that, it gives me able to support them, able to help them, even if they didn't reach out, because a lot of students don't even reach out, knowing that they need the help or need that there's support for them. So that's one of the things I've been doing, just kind of reaching out to them, seeing how they're doing. And from that, I can kind of gauge, you know, what kind of support I can provide them with, if it's Champs or somebody else or someone that can help me to help them as well. So it's one of the things that I do.
Thank you so much, Javi. Stacy, I saw you post something in the chat and come off mute. Did you want to share?
Oh, well, to be honest, Rachel, I couldn't get my mouse to work. So I was clicking and nothing happened. But anyway, I did put it in the chat. But you know, it's a great presentation that you guys are doing here. I love the resources. That's one of the joys and the challenges that I think of working for UAGC. There's so much wonderful things that are happening over on one side of the house, but the other side of the house doesn't necessarily have full visibility or knowledge. So either we're duplicating efforts, or maybe we're going after the same destination, but we're taking a different path to get there, which at the end of the day, I think, you know, regardless of what Evan may or may not do, if the full-time faculty are doing something similar, I think that's actually, there's way more pros than cons to that. But that being said, if we can more more holistically and collaboratively work together, then I think that we can be more unified in our messaging, which would help students. So one of the things that reminded me of that was seeing Evan's face, because Evan and Millie and so many others, they are wonderful partners. When we do an update in the SSC, or if we do updates in new course revisions, I mean, we've got, UAGC Connect, we have the CHAMPS program, all kinds of different supports for students that we've incorporated into classes. But listening to what you guys are saying today, that's not enough. We need to actually talk to our students, and we do a live session, right? We do welcome sessions in our classes now. We're doing live sessions in 103. There's no reason why we can't reinforce some of that. So those are some takeaways, I guess, for me that I'm thinking about going forward, is how I can help facilitate a more collaborative, unified message, I guess, with what you all are doing.
Thanks so much for that, Stacey. It reminds me too, like you just saw some faces and it reminded you what other folks do. And again, that's something that I don't know who's here representing a different institution, but for those of us who work at UAGC, we have to mindfully engage with folks across the institution, right? Because we're not walking from one side of campus to the other campus and run into Kira and run into Ben and are reminded of all the good work. We have to really mindfully do it. And so my hope is that this panel and these presentations remind us that that mindful work is worth it, and taking the time to connect with those of us across the institution and just remind ourselves how to integrate and how to connect, because we are small enough that we should not remain siloed. And yet it's so easy to do, right? And it happens on a ground campus. I promise you, I worked at one for a very long time. It is not unique to our situation. And we have an extra challenge. We really have to take an extra step to get outside our boxes and connect, and remind each other of what we all can offer. Evan.
I just love, so I think what Stacey's talking about is exactly what Hav is talking about. And what we've heard so many times is students need the time and the space to have meaningful conversations, to build those meaningful relationships. And CHAMPS for all these years has been an opt-in program. We had this great program, but they had to come to us to be able to find out the benefit of it. And since we're having this shift in culture, and although it's taking maybe a little bit longer than we wanted it to be able to be more proactive, we know, especially first-time college students, first-generation students, there's no question they don't know what they're doing. We know they don't know exactly what they're doing and what they need. And it should not be their job to come find us. We have to go find them. Our faculty can go find those students. And just like Hav did, he said it. He says, on my own time, it's not an activity. It's not something I'm doing, but I am proactively reaching out to them. And that's our job as educators in higher ed, is to go find them where they're at in every nook and cranny of the country, all over the world with our military population. But that's really our job, is being proactive. And with Stacey, I 100% agree with you. And that's why we're excited. Vanessa mentioned that, with CHAMPS beginning that migration over to People Grove, that was one of our goals. We've known that for a while, but now it's really starting to happen where, if we have a continuing student that is interested in being involved at the university, they're interested in being a mentor, interested in taking in club, leadership, it shouldn't be that they shouldn't have to go to several different places. Where our goal is that they can have kind of that singular profile where we can connect with them, and they can connect with the places where they can also see value and develop in their own ways, even if they're not facing critical life challenges or things like that. These are students that are still UAGC students that can still develop in their own ways. And hopefully we can make it that much more easy for them to be, included with us, and we can help develop them as well.
I see a chat too, I think in response to your question, Millie, just asking good questions. I see Kim writes, if a student asks for help, ask questions. I think you first say, of course, and then you ask questions, right? If a student asks for help, of course, and tell me more, tell me what's going on. The better questions we ask, the more open-ended questions we ask, the better able we are to connect students with what would be the most helpful. Kira and Millie to speak about in their presentation about what tutoring can help with and what it isn't, right? And so if a student says, I need help in this class, and you connect them with tutoring, but we didn't actually get to the what's going on here, right? Like it's actually really accommodations would be more supportive, or maybe they're really just not feeling connection. So asking those good questions after affirming support is a great way to stay connected and really holistically support our students. Being mindful of time. Does, any more questions out there? Nuggets? Yeah, Christina.
I was just going to add to what you just said, Rachel. Think about the last time any of you asked for help. Was it hard? It probably was. And so when our students ask for help, it's a hard thing. And when we tell them no, or the process is really hard, are they going to ask us again? Probably not. And so I think we just have to be mindful of who the student is and how hard. I know the last time I asked for help, it didn't go very well, right? So it's hard. It's hard as a working adult sometimes to acknowledge you need help. And just remember that about our students, that when they are coming to us, it is important that we lend a really supportive ear and just try to get down to how we can help support them.
Any other nuggets of wisdom my esteemed panelists want to share with folks today?
I'll just echo what Christina said. I definitely have, I work with students directly on the phone as a librarian, and, making that call, picking up the phone and making that call, it's hard, and talking to somebody that you don't know. And so I always thank them, first of all, for giving me the chance to work with them, to talk with them. And, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I will say that a lot of times students will say, I can't believe I waited this long to call. I feel so much better. Why doesn't everybody do this? And so I say, tell your friends, tell everybody, so it's one of those things, once you break down that barrier, again, a lot of times it is the student having to take that initiative to break down the barrier. But once it's broken down, then they feel invited to come back and to feel more connected and to feel like they're part of a community. And so, we just need to work together to find ways to surround the student and make sure that they are aware of all the supports that are available, and B, that they feel comfortable to reach out to those supports. So I think the more people that are in their world that are supporting them, that can echo these sentiments and let students know it's okay to reach out. And as a matter of fact, you'll find that it's really helpful to reach out and to get that support and the connection going. I think the better off we are. So if we all work together to kind of echo those sentiments, that I think that's a really good way to move forward and just try to get that message to students.
I really appreciate the very honest and authentic dialogue here today, all in an effort to really collaborate and be a place that can holistically support our students, and just encourage that work to continue from here. This is only the beginning, right? And so to consider everything that we learned here today and really engage with one another, collaborate, holistically support each other, and definitely supporting our students. So thank you so much for contributing to this panel today and for everybody's questions and comments. I really appreciate the dialogue, and thank you all.
Thank you, Rachel. See ya.